Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, 5 Ways to Use What You Already Know to Create Killer Lead Gen Campaigns. So I want to welcome everybody. And before we get started, we're going to do a little bit of a brief introduction of Scott Jacobson. Scott Jacobson is an individual who has worked with many small and mid-sized businesses on their sales and marketing. He's an expert in lead gen, lead nurturing, and all aspects of marketing, both from a traditional sense and from an online sense. And so I'm really happy to have him here today to talk about lead generation. So I think you're going to really, the presentation is really going to, I think, open your eyes a little bit and give you some really good actionable things that you'll be able to put into practice, which makes us very happy. So before we do that, one of the things that I wanted to talk about and go through with you is Janu very quickly. When we're talking about lead generation, the other thing that goes right with that is integrated tools. And why integrated tools are important is because when you're doing lead generation, if you're using a bunch of disparate tools and metrics, it's really hard to know exactly how your lead generation is going and what kind of effectiveness you've got. So one of the things I wanted to do really quickly is just connect the dots very quickly, just take a few minutes and talk about how Janu helps you manage your leads and helps your lead gen process, both from a standpoint of just generating leads all the way through sending them off to sales, etc. So I'm just going to really quickly walk you through a couple of views here. So I'm right now logged into our Janu account, and from a lead management standpoint, when you go and capture leads, so many of you, every one of you that signed up for this event came out and signed up for the webinar right here on our landing page, and we have GoToWebinar integration so that what happens is we can build out our landing pages with whatever content we want, no IT involvement required. Put a form on that page and everything comes into our Janu account. And then we can automatically trigger out emails. We can score your responses. We can understand how you show interest and respond to some of our marketing. And to that end, we've got full email marketing and lead nurturing that includes lead scoring. And if we were to look at, say, our webinar reminder to all of you, we created that within Janu. And if I look at the metrics just from the reminder email, you get to see a lot of information about how did that email go, how many people opened it, how many clicks were generated, what did people look at, what interested them. In addition to that, you get to see from a lead perspective specifically, you get to see exactly what a lead has been interested in. So once you pass that lead off to sales, sales can actually see all of the things that lead activity has been, so they can hit the ground running. You have a really easy way to create lead capture forms and manage your leads overall with a full report dashboard. So when you look at the report dashboard, what you start to see are how many leads did you get in the last month? How many, we can track any of your websites. See, we have tracking code you can put there. And you can start to see your influencers, who's sharing you in social, what forms are performing for you, and all of that sort of thing, as well as your last email campaigns and whatnot. So you can start to see it just in a little view like that. So without any further ado, I know that was really quick. We also have Salesforce.com integration. I know that was really quick, but I just wanted to bring up the connector point for lead gen and then really doing lead management well. Because a lot of small and mid-sized businesses that I work with, their leads come in from their website and then they go into an inbox. And if they go into an email somewhere, you can't track, you can't manage, you can't trigger. It's left in a manual capacity where mostly they're going to fall through the cracks. So what we want to do here is really talk about lead gen. So without any further ado, I am going to turn this over to Scott, and we'll get started with the presentation. Thank you very much. And as we go along, you're all on mute, but there's a questions area. And as we go along, if there's a question that you have, please enter it And we will be going through questions, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. But as you think of them, you can go ahead and put them in, and we'll be monitoring that as well. All right, Scott, it's over to you. Now I've unmuted him so he can talk. All right, Scott, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Kim. All right, let's get started. 5 ways to use what you already know to create killer lead gen campaigns. But first, let's talk just quickly about me. Here's me looking very serious for business, and then also that's me very seriously on vacation. So Kim already mentioned that I've used both traditional marketing methods for lead generation, as well as internet marketing methods for lead generation. And this presentation is not going to emphasize either one of those. We're going to talk more about the principles that underline lead generation, regardless of which tactics you're using. And I've highlighted down there in the bottom using new products for lead generation, or creating new products for lead generation specifically for that purpose. That's one of the ones that I've had a great deal of success with, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, let's just talk a little bit about the surveys that you filled out prior to coming on the seminar. Generally, it skews to slightly more difficult. That is, you've said that lead generation is slightly more difficult in the last 2 years. Now, of course, there's a wide spread in that. Some said it was a lot more difficult. Some said it's about the same. Also, as a group, we're spending slightly more time on lead generation than we have been in the last 2 years. But kind of interestingly, we're also spending less money, and that could be for a variety of reasons. I won't necessarily speculate. All of you, most of you actually, have tried a wide variety of tactics, with email being the leader by far, so that's great. And then in terms of challenges in lead generation over the last 2 years, content was the big leader, followed quickly by the strategy of the offer, and then funding and measurement. And we're going to talk, we're going to hit all of those to some degree. Strategy is probably the one that we're going to talk the most about, but we're going to certainly be setting a good foundation for developing content, and then also for improving funding, and in a way less on measurement. But we should be touching on all of those. Okay, let's start with the first thing that we already know about lead generation. We already know that lead generation is easy and it follows a formula. This is a quote that I pulled off of a marketing services company's website. Proper lead generation is neither expensive, overly time-consuming, nor proven to produce only a few convertible prospects. What it is profitable, predictable, scalable, and I guess if you get all those right, it's even fun. And the emphasis is obviously mine in the red there. The predictable and scalable, that tells me that it is a formula. So if there's a formula, let's take a look at what that formula might look like. So here is what I think is a good representation of a lead generation formula. This is a fairly common cartoon. Hopefully you can read it there, but it's two professors, scientists-looking guys looking at a math equation. In the middle of the math equation, it says, "Then a miracle occurs," and the caption is, "I think you should be more explicit here in step 2." I think that's a pretty darn good representation for what a lead generation formula should look like. So, but let's expand on that formula a little bit. So here's a lead generation formula. Your leads in the L equal the audience times the problem times the cumulative of the offer times the interest, the ease at which the prospect has of taking your offer, the credibility you have in making your offer, and that's divided by the risk that the prospect has for taking action. And then trailing along in the back there is the frequency. So let's not get too caught up on the details of the equation, but what we are going to do is use this equation to help us keep track of these elements. So each of these elements is important for a successful lead generation campaign. So we don't want to lose track of these elements. That's what we're going to use this equation for. And the audience times the problem. Let's group some of these together. The audience and the problem go hand in hand. If you have the right audience, or if you have the right problem for the right audience, obviously if you are not communicating with the right audience about the problem, you've got a problem there. And then out of audience problem comes an offer, and then who you are and the interest, the ease, the credibility, and the risk of taking action. So here's what we know. We know that lead generation follows a formula, but that formula that we just started talking about, if you just follow that formula, if you do all of those tactics correctly, it still does not guarantee a successful lead generation campaign. We need to have that miracle occur somewhere in the middle so that we actually get the results we're looking for. And that happens when we take the formula and we put it firmly on a foundation of experience, insight, creativity, and a mindset for lead generation. So let's be clear. You have to be talking to the right audience for sure. You have to have the right problem. You have to have the right offer. They have to have interest in it. It has to be easy for them to take advantage of it. You have to be credible, and the risk for them to take up your offer has to be low, and you have to do it with the right frequency. But you have to mix with that this experience, insight, creativity, and that mindset, and then you have a chance of having the miracle occur. All right, let's move on to the second thing that we know we need to do for lead generation. We know that we need to test. And what do we need to test? Well, we need to test everything. So I could ask a question, how many of you actually test your lead generation process? But I think I already know what the answer is. Most of us don't do it. In fact, it's kind of like, you might be wondering what the picture of the guy on the park bench is for. Well, it's kind of like weight loss. If you ask the average person, at least here in America, if they want to lose 10 pounds, they're going to say yes. Even if you ask them, hey, would it be good for you to lose 1 pound? They're going to say yes. And the equation to do that is actually very straightforward. You actually have to, what you have to do is you have to take in less calories than you burn up. Now, I know this isn't true for those of you who are in Europe, because you all either walk or bike to work and eat free-range foods. But I think you can appreciate the comparison anyway. So the point is that there's a lot of roadblocks to doing what we need to do, especially when it comes to testing. That's been my experience. So it's not just a question of knowing we need to test. We need to get over those roadblocks that prevent us from actually testing. And one of those roadblocks is actually the number of things we need to test. We need to test everything: the list, the headline, the timing, keywords, open rates, click-through rates, your landing pages. Color can make a difference on landing pages. Call to action, the placement of the call to action, whether or not you should use arrows. There's just a tremendous amount of things that are available to test. And that can be overwhelming, and that alone, in my experience, can put roadblocks in our path to actually doing what we know we need to do. So let's try and break down some of those roadblocks. Let's take a look at what an actual test might look like. So we're going to spend some dollars or euros or pounds, and we're going to get 1,000 names or 1,000 clicks, depending on whether we're using perhaps direct mail, we're doing email, or maybe a pay-per-click campaign. And out of that 1,000, we're going to get 30 registrations, a 3% response rate. Well, that can be kind of frustrating, because we spent 1,000, or we bought 1,000 names, we get a 3% response rate, gives us 30 registrations. And let's be clear, we're not talking about customers, we're just talking about leads generated. So what that did is it gave us the opportunity to continue to spend money and time wooing these 30 registrants in the hopes that they're going to become a customer in the end. And then, now let's run a test on this. We run test B, and we show a 40% increase in response rate, and that's fantastic. I've done this several times. But what are we talking about here? We just went from 30 people, 30 registrations, out of 1,000 to 42. We increased the number of registrations we got by 12. Just looking at those numbers can be very frustrating, at least for me, and I think for most people as well. So one of the things that is clear too is let's talk about how we can improve on that, or what we can do to deal with the kind of the mindset that occurs right here. I think one of the challenges we have is we're using the wrong metrics a lot of times. We're talking about actions rather than true results. So a simple way to do that would be to say, I spent $1,000 for those names or clicks, and as a result, I broke even. That means that the result of this campaign is going to pay for itself. This is the first thing I always do with clients when we're starting marketing campaigns. I say, okay, our first goal is not to make a boatload of money. The first goal is for us to break even. Let's get our marketing so it's paying for itself, so that we can get the breathing room we need to then start testing. It's really frustrating to run a test or to run a lead generation campaign. You find out that you got your 30 responses, 3%, pretty typical. It doesn't matter whether it's 4% or what your actual number is. But the problem is if you're not making money. You come right out of the chute, you're not making money, and then you run a test and maybe that you're still not making money. It gets pretty discouraging to continue your test. It's much easier just to abandon what you're trying and then start over again. The problem is that you're not learning. So our first goal should be to actually break even. And then our test, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to break even from, we're trying to go from a break-even point to a 35% ROI forecast. So of course, part of what you need here at this point is you need to understand what the value of your customers are, and you need to understand the cost of your campaigns broken down by campaign. So there's a little bit of work that we have to put in to do that. But when we do that, now one of the things that came out in the surveys was people were talking about the challenge of trying to be funded for their marketing campaigns. I can tell you from experience, it's much easier to work from a position of break even than it is from losing and losing and losing. Now we're going to talk about what happens if the first campaign is losing money and how do we continue to test from then. But setting the goal a little bit more appropriately makes a huge difference in our attitude and willingness to continue to fund a lead generation campaign. Okay, let's look at what we need to know. This should actually be number 3. We know we need to have a good offer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find the lead generation problem. So let's say that you started out, you ran a campaign, and it wasn't making money. We got to find the problem. We have to find out what the issue is. Before we just start randomly testing something, trying something new, or try a whole different campaign, let's see if we can figure out what happened. Why isn't it performing? So the first place to look is with our offer. Is the offer working? And we're coming back to our equation here, the big O. Is our offer working? All right, here's how we're going to test our offer. We're going to take a small group of target prospects who you know are in your market and they know you. And the reason why we're doing that is because if we go back up to our equation, if we have a group of target prospects and they know us already, we've already identified the right audience. And because they know us, we have some credibility with that audience, and their resistance, the risk they have in dealing with our offer is reduced. So what we're doing is we're starting to isolate the offer and not confuse it with some of the other factors that go into a good lead generation campaign. So how do we do that? How do we find this target, small group of target prospects? Start with your existing customers. If your existing customers are not going to take you up on your free report, for example, if that's your offer, why would you think that somebody who doesn't know you is going to take you up on your free report? Now, I want to do a little sidebar here as we continue to go through this presentation. I can almost guarantee that at some point, most or all of you are going to react and say, well, you know, that doesn't work for me. That's a dumb idea. That works in a different industry, but you know, how does that apply for me? And I'll give you an example. Kim and I were talking about this, and one of the things she said with her customers, marketing automation customers, when they start out as prospects and they move through to becoming customers, after they've been customers for a while, they are much more knowledgeable than they were when they were prospects. The very act that they use her product, her marketing automation software, they are educating themselves in the fundamentals of marketing. And as they go through that process, so what that means then is a free report to a prospect is maybe not going to be appealing to a customer. Okay, I have a couple comments to that. One is, if we're targeting a small group of prospects, there's no reason why we can't have a conversation with them and say, I know that you're past this point, but when you were a prospect, when you were just thinking about this, would you find this kind of a report, assuming our offer is a free report, it could be a webinar, it could be a course, it could be any number of things. But would you be interested in this? Would you have found this interesting? Would you have found it helpful? The other thing is let's not forget too that your offer, especially if you're trying to woo somebody early in their buying process, maybe before they even know that they need your product. Industry reports, something that is not related to your product but is related to their industry, can be a good way of capturing leads. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter how educated your customers become, they're still interested in their own industry. Okay. Also, we can start looking at leads in your funnel. So let's say you've got somebody who's been working through your sales funnel, your marketing funnel, and they've consumed some of your products or some of your marketing products, and then you come up with a new offer. By all means, there's a nice target group, a limited group, offer it to them. If they're not taking it, maybe your offer isn't quite so good. Because again, these people are more favorably inclined than somebody who doesn't know you and has never interacted with you. And go back and test inactive customers and leads. And all through this presentation, I've got ask your salespeople down here in the bottom. Salespeople can be a huge resource as you're building your lead generation campaign, as you're searching for a good offer. Depending on the salesperson, some are better at it than others, but I would go to a salesperson and say, what would it take? You know, would this be the sort of offer? Could be a free trial for our prospects. Do you think that would be interesting to them? Would that be interesting enough for them to give us their contact information so that we could continue to market to them? Those are just some ideas on selecting that small group of target prospects. Okay, let's continue with the theme here, but let's start scaling it. Let's start scaling our campaign. We went to a small group, now let's go a little bit bigger and a little bit farther afield, in that this group may not necessarily know us as well. But while we're networking, there's no reason why when you're networking, you can't make your offer. And I particularly like this because this is face-to-face. It's mano a mano. We can cue the gunfight music, we're staring each other in the eyes, and I say to you, my company just produced a report that I think you might find interesting. Can I email it to you? Well, you know, they'll either take it or they won't, but one of the great things about that interaction is that it's a lot better than looking at Google Analytics. Google Analytics can tell you a lot of things, but it can't tell you what somebody is thinking and what they're feeling. You have a much better chance of getting to that if you're face-to-face. I've got the right audience, I've just presented my offer, and because we're face-to-face, the risks and they're much more inclined to take me up on the offer, even if it's just out of courtesy. So if I'm face-to-face and I can't get anybody to take me up on my offer, there's probably something wrong with my offer. Okay, same thing with social media. If you have some people that are involved in your social media, they're interacting with you in one way or another. That one's pretty obvious. But here's the other one. Let's take and manually build. Again, what we're doing is we're scaling our list. So we already targeted some past customers. We've maybe done some networking, and our offer seems to be working. So let's manually build a list of 10 to 50 people. And we'll build it by web search, LinkedIn, referrals, whatever. We're targeting industry, we're targeting companies that we look at them and say, you know what, there's no reason they're not a customer. They should be a customer. If they only knew about us, they would be buying. Let's go after that group and put our offer in front of them and see if we can get them to take it. Now, I think one of the roadblocks here is that we're afraid to try to run small, statistically insignificant tests. And I think that's a big mistake. Is 10 out of 10, if you have 10 people, is that a statistically significant test? No. But I can tell you that many times I've run tests where I've had 10 out of 10 people who have taken my offer, and I've had 10 out of 10 people who have not taken my offer. And I can say pretty confidently in those cases I learned something. I learned something about the offer. And other than time, which time is worth something, no question about it, but I'm learning. As I go along, I'm learning. Now, one of the things I want to mention too is, remember, we are not building a lead generation campaign that is going to be where we're going to manually build a list of 10,000 people. That is not what we're doing here. We are testing our offer. Before we go big time, before we commit more money to it, what we want to do is make sure or believe that we have a good offer. Okay, so now let's suppose we did that and we found a problem. Our offer is not working. Now what do we do? And the good news is we found it before we spent a boatload of money on a large lead generation campaign. Okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to have an attitude where we are going to be determined to find an offer that works. Until we do that, there's no point in buying a list and moving on. If we have an offer that doesn't produce, we're just going to be wasting our money. We can create an awful lot of activity, but we're not going to create very much results. And this is where we need to start applying some of that creativity we talked about and some of that insight. We need to be prepared to do some outrageous offers. We need to be prepared to try a whole new tone. Maybe it's humorous, serious, pleading, ask for help, be blunt, but get creative. And then the one that I've highlighted there is a focused offer. The more focused, so if we went out with an offer trying to get some leads, people were not taking us up on it. So now we're going back to the drawing board on an offer. What should we do? Look for a more focused offer. The more focused your offer, the more likely it will be successful. The question, though, of course, is what do we focus on? The focus is entirely on your prospect. It's not on you. It's not on your systems. It's not on your proprietary process. It's not even on your proprietary patented product. What it is on is a problem that your prospects have. Focus on that, figure out what that is, and then generate an offer around that. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. So your offer's not working. So what you want to do is solve a real but immediate problem. And it can be a small problem, because all we're asking for in the lead generation stage is all we're asking for is their contact information. We're just looking for the opportunity to continue a conversation with them. So this is what I think is a pretty common, number one there is a pretty common offer that accountants make. And I'm picking on accountants because they're pretty generic and they have a bad stereotype. And if we can make an offer that works for them, then it seems like we could make an offer work for anybody. So here's what I would say is typical. We put some information up on our website that talks about 3 pricing strategies. Well, let's boost that up a little bit by talking about that 70% of all manufacturers make this pricing mistake, and it costs them millions. Or one simple pricing change can put money in your pocket and your customers won't know the difference. Now again, are either one of those great headlines? Let's just say these are headlines for our offer. Headlines on an email that we're making an offer in, or wherever. It could be wherever it is, this is what we're doing. The point is not necessarily that these are great. The point is that they are much more focused and they're much more specific. And because of that, they have a much better chance of getting a response rate to the offer rather than just 3 pricing strategies. So let's go back to our equation and let's look at number 4. The fourth thing that we already know that we need to do for lead generation, and that is getting attention. Okay, I've already talked about this, but I'm going to emphasize it again. When you talk to people face to face, it really focuses the attention and it allows you to really focus on what is working and what is not working in your lead generation process. We already talked about that you have the right audience, but you also have their attention. One of the biggest things that, especially for email marketing, for example, is that you have to be able to get their attention. You have to have them open the email. A great offer that is never seen is an offer that's never seen and isn't going to do you much good. But when you're talking to somebody face to face, they're going to hear your offer. Okay. But let's scale up. Again, face-to-face is good for early stages of testing, but we also want to have some intermediate testing. So we're going to scale up a little bit in terms of getting attention. Again, I think one of the negative consequences of the focus on internet marketing, particularly email, has been that we've forgotten that there are other ways to actually get our offer in front of prospects. And for example, I'm talking about dimensional mailers and lumpy mailers. And dimensional mailers are things that pop up. They could come in a flat envelope, and when you open the envelope, it pops up and it turns into something. Lumpy mail is when you put something inside an envelope. So for example, if you sent your offer inside of a trash can, all of these things have been shown to dramatically increase open rates. So again, if we've selected 50 targets, we send them a dimensional mailer or a lumpy mailer, we can be very confident that a significant percentage of those got opened and noticed. So if we do that and we don't get the response we're looking for, there's probably a problem with the offer. So by making sure we get the attention, we've narrowed down where to focus our attention. So then when you do these sorts of things too, it's good to try to have a tie-in, but it doesn't have to be terribly creative. So you send a trash can and you could say, stop wasting time or money on something or other and buy our product. I'm showing a little Army Man. I actually got one of those in the last several months. It was just a little plastic Army Man tucked into an envelope. So when I grabbed it, it was lumpy, it felt something, and it was like a toy prize inside. So of course I had to open it. Now, again, we're not saying that you want to have your lead generation campaign be relying on just this, but it's a great way to test to see if you're on the right track or not. This type of a campaign can run from anywhere from maybe $2 to $10. You'll have to do the conversion yourself for euros and pounds. And of course, it can run more than that as well. But if you run a test like this, target 50 people, 50 companies, and you get great response, you know that you're on the right track and you can start scaling up your lead generation activities. And I've run this. This can be very effective, by the way, if you're selling a physical product. If you can figure out some way to get your physical product, if you can mail it, obviously if it's too big for that, you can't, but you can always measure scaled down versions of it or something like that. But it's a tangible way to get that attention. Okay, let's go back to our old friend, the accountant. And let's scale up a little bit, and let's say that we're going to look for some email headlines. It wouldn't necessarily have to be email, it could also be direct mail. But what we're looking for is a focused problem with attitude. Okay, so our accountant is going to put together a campaign that says a free change of underwear with every audit. Now I've tested this as a headline, as an attention-getting headline, and I can say that 100% of the people that I've shown this to, especially with the cute little cartoon underwear there, the smallest response, the least response I get is a slight smile, and it ranges anything from a slight smile to a chuckle. Now, is that enough to get the email opened? I don't know. I'd have to test it, but it's a whole lot better than just saying something that doesn't get a smile or a chuckle. Or don't get caught with your pants down in front of the IRS. I should also mention, for those of you in Europe, if you don't know, the IRS is our revenue service, our tax man, and you don't want to be audited by them. It's a scary thing. So don't get caught with your pants down. Then the offer would be for free sales tax preparation if it was a sales tax audit. And then down on the bottom, 40% of small businesses overpay the IRS. Our clients don't. That's one of the things, that's an example of how you can present to a client as an offer a negative benefit, if you will. So one of the challenges you have for service providers in a lot of cases, so if you're an IRS or if you're an accountant and you do your job really well, you won't be overpaying the IRS. Well, how do you show somebody that you prevented them from disaster? Well, you have to reach outside of your client base and look to the industry, and you have to point to some of the disasters that have happened. And then you have to let them know, hey, you know what? That could have been you, but it's not. It's not because of our proprietary process. In this case, with just a little bit of research, I found the statistic behind this. 40% of small businesses in the United States overpay the IRS, and our clients don't. So with just a little bit of research, I was able to find a statistic. Now, I found a statistic of why they're overpaying and what the issue is. So this accountant would have to make sure that they were dealing with that issue. But the point here again is not necessarily that these are great headlines, but if we can make a decent headline out of accountants, we should be able to do that with non-boring things like our products and our services. Okay, let's look at the last thing. The last thing that we already know, but that we can improve on to improve our lead generation. And that is, there's two types of prospects. Those who've not yet decided to buy your product, and those who've already made the decision to buy your product, but they've not yet purchased. The guy on the left there is crumpling up paper and playing basketball with it with his wastebasket. So that's a guy who has not yet decided he needs your product. In fact, he might not even be thinking about it. And the way you get his attention is he's so bored that he says, you know what, I'm going to download this free report, and I don't know, maybe I'll even read it. And this is the realm of a lot of internet marketers. We start way down at the end, and that's good, but we're wooing people whose interest is maybe casual, maybe curious, but they're not terribly motivated when we get them very early. Now, at the other extreme are those that are in a crisis. So something's happened to this prospect that they went from casual interest to, all right, I need to make a decision. I need something, whatever it is. I need accounting services. I need to fix my IT infrastructure, whatever it is. But I've now decided to buy. Now, it could be that prospect has already been wooed by somebody else. Somebody's already been talking to them from the time they were bored playing basketball to the time they got here. But the point is, they haven't made a decision yet. And we want to be prepared in our lead generation to enter the conversation at both points. So what does that mean? Let's go back to our equation. We're circling back around to where we started. We started with the offer, and now we're focusing on the problem. And the offer, the audience, the A there, and the O all go hand in hand. When you have a great, when you really zero in and have a focused problem, your audience is obvious and your offer becomes much easier to make. So, and the P there is the prospect's problem. It's not the prospects themselves. It's the problem they have. So let's take a look at some crisis examples, or we could say crises examples. Let's take an easy one, a relationship counselor. So I had a client who was a marriage counselor as well as relationship counselor, and looking at his business, one of the things I said right away is saying, well, wait a minute, you're not doing anything for those people who are in crisis. So what's a marriage crisis? Well, the obvious one is if you just found out your spouse is cheating on you. I would say that's a pretty big crisis. So what we did is we developed a new product specifically for, because part of what he said here at this point is he said, you know what, I don't know that I want to deal with that. I much prefer dealing with people who are, who have, maybe struggling a little bit in their marriage, but they really, it's not at the crisis point. And he said one of the nice things about it too is I get to know him a lot more because it's generally a little bit longer time period that he stays with them, and he can see some real progress. And he said these crises, it's a whole different mindset. The intensity is higher. And I said, okay, I get that. But one of the nice things about doing this is you get clients coming in very quickly, and you can polish your lead generation. So he agreed to put together a Your Marriage is in Crisis package. And part of that included, I think it was, however many steps. Here's the package you need. If you just found out your spouse has been cheating on you, here's the 10 things you need to do in the next 2 days and 2 weeks, something like that. And the nice thing about that is it was a nice streamlined process of getting somebody who's decided they want to buy to actually purchasing. The other thing I'd say is when you start thinking about a crisis from your prospects, once they've decided to buy, they're much more emotionally engaged. And once they're more emotionally engaged, it allows you to build out content and focus on your offer a lot more. So let's take a look. Let's go back to our accountant. We already talked a little bit about the accountant and some of the things that they could be doing. Certainly when there's an audit, but it could also be when somebody finds out that their bookkeeper has been stealing from them, or they suspect the bookkeeper's been stealing from them. So how would you make an offer surrounding that? You might put together your emergency bookkeeper audit kit. Then if you go all the way out to some of the more mundane things, it might be I've got to restate my inventory for some reason or another. Let's look at management consulting. Management consulting, one of their prospects might be in a crisis when they hit some bad public relations. They've got some bad press out there and they need to take action. Again, this could be a case where somebody says, you know what, I don't really want to do that as a high pressure situation. I am much better at working with leadership development or some of those kind of things. But you might choose to team up with somebody who is a crisis specialist, become sort of a project manager for that. And the reason why you do that is because once somebody comes in with a crisis, a PR crisis, and you help them solve the crisis, you're now in a great position to sell them your longer term management consulting. And manufacturers. Manufacturers can have vendor problems, delivery problems. They can have change in gas prices, changes transportation costs. There's a variety of things that could cause manufacturers' prospects to change their buying, to put them in a buying situation where they weren't before. The more we can figure those things out, the more likely we are going to be able to craft a great offer and a great and focus on the right audience. And I'll add one thing in here too, is when we do that, once we have these offers that we've focused in on a targeted problem that a customer has or that a prospect has, we put together an offer, and now we're engaging them in that conversation around that problem. It's much easier to develop content than if we're just trying to talk about the vast array of services that we provide, that they may or may not be interested in, our proprietary process. Nobody cares about your proprietary process unless it solves a problem or provides a real benefit. Okay, so let's just review. Here's where we've been. Here's the 5 things that we talked about that you already know, but you can use these to dramatically improve your lead generation campaigns. First, the lead generation is a formula, but it also requires creativity and insight to get that miracle to occur. We talked about how you need to test, and we talked a little bit about some things that you can employ to carve out some small tests that are very manageable. We talked about that you need a good offer and what to do if you don't have a good offer. Once you've discovered that that's not the right thing, we need to do something different. We've talked about how to attract attention so that we can put that offer in front of the right people. And then we talked about entering the conversation at 2 points. Okay, we still have a little bit of time, but let's wrap up here. And I just want to add that if, as a result of this, that you want to have a conversation focused on your specific lead generation challenges, or if you'd like to receive our worksheet about calculating your lead generation break-even point, you can go to this that URL. We talked about the lead generation break-even point very early on in terms of measurement for lead generation and knowing when you're getting it right.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you very much. And we can take any questions that you might have. Here's one that just came in, Scott. Do you have any suggestions for tying lead generation campaigns and outbound calling together?
Well, yes, certainly. Okay, I have to do some inference here, but outbound calling, telemarketing can still be a very effective lead generation strategy. What I would have though is if you're going to do a phone call for lead generation, you want to make an offer. So you have to be very clear about what it is you're going to offer the person, and that would be also include that in your voicemails. So as an example, you'd have an outbound calling campaign, and most of the people you're going to have to leave voicemails with. You could talk about a little bit about what your offer is, and then send them to a landing page, and hopefully they'll take up your free report there.
All right, next question. What is the best way to target different type of prospects in dissimilar sectors whose problems might be different?
Oh, that's a great question. You target them separately. One of the things you want to start doing in your lead generation from the very beginning, by focusing in on the problem, what you're doing is you're segmenting your market. And once this leads into the follow-on conversation about lead nurturing. Once I know what segment you're in, once I know what your problem is, it makes it so much easier for me to develop the content I need to keep you engaged. I'm not wasting your time talking about something that you're not interested in. So in one respect, it's a little bit more work, because rather than just having one message that fits, that really doesn't fit anybody well, you're going to have maybe 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 messages that are laser focused at a segment, and a segment with a particular problem. But the good news is that especially now when this is where internet marketing starts to really shine, and marketing automation tools. Once you write that content that's targeted on that specific focused industry with that specific focused problem, now you have it. Now you can enter that conversation over and over and over again.
All right. Next question. Which of these points would you suggest is a good starting place for a lead gen campaign?
Well, I would start with the problem. Everything starts with the problem that the prospect has. And until you really understand what that problem is, it's hard to build an offer and then build the content and focus in around it. So everything starts with the problem. The reason why I didn't actually start there is because what I found is that many companies don't have the energy to do that right away, or they're in the middle of a lead generation campaign. So, all right, let's jump in with what you're doing already. Let's start where you're at, and let's start building from there. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, very good. And I would say one of the things that I see over and over is people don't really clearly understand who their target audience is. They haven't done the work to understand. They know the demographics, but they don't know the emotions. They don't know that person and what drives that person. And that can be really critical to understanding the problem and how problems affect them, but also the kind of offer that you might actually put together. So that's what I would say as a little adjunct to that question. Um, Next question. How do you gain the interest of a contact via email prospecting? Does the subject line make a difference?
Yeah, well, the subject line, yes, the subject line is, I could say everything, but one of the things that they'll say that is a truism in email marketing is how well do they know you? If it's actually a cold email, then the subject line is everything. And that assumes that they don't know anything about you, your company. Then you have to have a great subject line. And again, what's a great subject line? Something that they're interested in. If you can talk about their problem, it's going to have a lot more draw to them than something else. And then if you put in a little bit of attitude, a little bit of humor in it, that's even better.
Okay. And I would say the subject line can make a huge difference, and that's an area that you really should test. But the other side of that is all that does is have them open your email. So that'll get you that'll get you inside the email. But then the headline in your email and the content in your email all has to earn its place in keeping their attention and moving them into actually acting. So I think, the subject line is just the first step there. Next question. How can you link your SEO with lead generation?
Well, they go hand in hand. So actually, that's a great question. If you have a very specific focused problem and you can create some content around it and create an offer around it, then you're going to have a landing page that deals with that very specific problem. Let's go back to our accountant again. An accountant who's going to try to claim the search term CPA in fill in the blank city is going to have a hard time with that. But if the accountant has a web page that's titled "What to Do When You Suspect Your Bookkeeper is Stealing from You," that's a long-term key search. But if somebody types that in, that page is going to show up a lot higher than some of the other pages. So just by focusing in on the problems, it makes it easier to write the content because it's specific, and that by its very nature will improve the searchability that you will gain around that problem.
Okay. Here's the next one. And I think actually this one goes with what you just answered, which is how can I use these ideas in my social media efforts? So it would occur to me that, just like with search, with Google now wanting topical sites, topical expertise, so that you become a reference place, that's what's going to help you in SEO, and that's content. Similarly with social media, would you agree, Scott?
I definitely agree. And once you have the content and the problem, once you have this figured out, you can get even more creative with it. So another way to test whether or not you think you have the right problem would be to put it out on social media. How many people have experienced, what was your reaction what was the first thing that came to your mind when you opened the letter that said you were getting an IRS audit, to keep running with our theme? And then you get responses around that. If you've identified a real problem for a group of people, it makes it so much easier to take any of the media, any of the marketing lead generation tactics and employ them.
Right. Okay, here's a good question. My clients don't have problems. We sell golf memberships and event space. Is there a non-problem approach to take?
That's a great question. I love that. And thank you for that. You know what? Just change the word opportunity. And actually, what you look for then is you want to look for opportunity or benefits. Another way to look at this is you can look at the negative, what you're preventing. You can also look at the positive. What am I gaining? So it could be, let's just take golf memberships. And I'm not a golfer, so I'm just going to have to wing it here. But if you have a very exclusive club, one of the things you might want to talk about is opportunities to offer exclusive events where they get to hobnob with other people who are hobnobbing with them. And that was a long stretch there, but it is, in some ways it's a little bit more of a challenge, but the principles are the same. Just turn it and look for benefits and opportunities, because there's a reason why people want to join, and why would they, what causes them to want to do it. If you're joining a golf club membership, because the reason why I went with the sort of networking, the hobnobbing idea is because I know several people that do that. They pick their golf membership based on the membership rosters. So if that's the case, and I don't know how true that is or not for other people, but if that's the case, there's a true benefit to exploit.
Right. And I would say that, how you actually think about problems, like you may think they don't have problems. And then I think it's great to look at opportunity, but it's also cool to look at, well, what makes you unique and how are you different from your competitors? And there's issues with certain memberships and the way people are members in clubs that they may not like, that you could get people to switch to your club. So there could be some opportunities there as well. And the same goes for event space. Not all event spaces are created equal. So what are some of the issues that people experience? What are some of the headaches in event planning that you could help them with, or that you could create a package around? So I think that that's also something you can think about. All right, we've got another question in.
Yeah, Kim, let me just say, that just triggered something too. And that's, if you go back to the accountant and the one free change of underwear with every audit. That's the same sort of thing too. If you're selling something that, I like this, I just want to run this a little bit more too, is that just put a little bit of attitude in what you're offering. So if you have golf memberships, you have to be creative. This is where we have to be creative. We have to use our business insight and put a little attitude around it. I'm always surprised at what, when you put a little creativity into it, what you can come up with, and what sometimes will actually work.
Very cool. All right, I've got one more question. I'm gonna pull from here. Let's see. How can I ensure that I get quality leads from my lead generation efforts, not just quantity?
Yeah, that's another great question, and what that really does is that leads into the follow-on steps. Lead generation is only the first part. Now that gives us the opportunity to continue to nurture and engage those leads, and to pull them through to becoming a customer. And that's where we really need to have a feedback loop, if you will, of the whole process. And I think, Kim, that leads into some of the upcoming seminars. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And our next webinar, which we'll get a notice out about soon, is going to be all about lead nurturing and effective follow-up. So once you get the leads, what do you do with them to really have them, to build a relationship with them and understand when they're sales ready or interested in a sales conversation? So how do you start to engage your leads really, really well and not let any of them slip through the cracks? So that will be our next webinar, and we'll be sending a notice out about that. The other thing, I want to just thank you, Scott, very much for being willing to do a webinar and to share your expertise. I also want to encourage those of you on the call that are watching the webinar, really, if you'd like a conversation focused on your specific lead gen challenges. We had some great questions, but if you want to sign up for that, it's a 30-minute conversation that is completely all about your lead gen challenges for you. So that's all about your stuff. Just go out here and it's only offered for the webinar attendees. The other thing is, when it came up and we were really talking about, when you start to measure and monitor things, the question that comes up a lot is, well, how do we do that? What metrics would we really look at, and how do we calculate that? Well, if you go from the standpoint of, hey, we had a 40% improvement, which is one way to look at, how many leads you're generating. But what Scott brought up is, look at your break even and your increase in ROI. How about that? And that's much more of a business measurement. And so the next thing I had was, well, then let's show them how to do that. Let's give them a worksheet. Let's give them a tool that actually will let them calculate that for themselves. So if you want that, just go out and let us know that you'd like that, and we can get that sent off to you. So those are just two things. Again, thank you so much for participating.